Blessed love and greetings, family Rastafari. HaileSelassieI, Empress Men in I balance. Rastafari. Greetings in that divine name. Yeah? We give thanks and praises, family. Right now, I thought it was about time we did another video, another little reasoning on this very crucial and important book, The Wise Mind of His Imperial Majesty Emperor Haile Selassie first. Yeah, like I say, very important book. If you can get your hands on a copy, it's a small book, a pocket book. Can fit inside your pocket, carry it around, study up. You know what I mean? This book is filled with enough quotes taken from various speeches of His Majesty, talking on various different topics. So we did a video already on peace. We did a video, there's a chapter, advice to students. Right now, I would like to read from one of my favorite chapters and one of the most important chapters, of course, in this book, which is chapter 2, education. Yeah. Now, anybody that is familiar with the personality and the character of His Imperial Majesty will know that His Majesty, was very much for education. In fact, His Majesty say education is key. In fact, His Majesty was a flag bearer of education, opening up many schools and universities. Look, HaileSelassieI University, the first university in Ethiopia, the most important university, perhaps in Africa. Today they call it Addis Ababa University. Today the fountain is dried up. Today they need to rename it HaileSelassieI University so that the knowledge, the fountain of knowledge, may flow again, because His Majesty even speaks in this book about how if knowledge is not added to, the fountain will no longer flow, the fountain will dry up just like the knowledge. So I, man, find it very significant that when you go to HaileSelassieI University now in 2022, there is no water, the fountain is dry. Rastafari. So family, yeah, before we're done, what we must know as well is that when His Majesty opened HaileSelassieI University, I believe it was 1955, I could be mistaken, correct me in the comments if so, that was the palace at the time that His Majesty was living in, you know what I mean, with Empress Menen, and they gave up the palace. Like, what happened is now the people, the civilians, the people of Ethiopia, they said they wanted to build a statue of His Majesty. I can't remember the exact details right now, but we know that His Majesty said, do not waste your money to build a statue, and he gave up his palace instead to make a university. So I have to find the exact details of the story there, but if you research your facts, yeah family, go and research. I'm only giving you little nuggets of truth, and you have to go and find the full information for yourself, as we know. Yeah, as His Majesty tells us, yeah, we must study all, and we must study and examine all, but take only the good. See? And we must never just take what somebody tells us to be true without researching and finding out the truth for ourselves. You know what I mean? And coming to that understanding, inner standing and revelation. So family, right now, chapter 2, education. Let's have a look. Obviously, enough important quotes in this chapter. One of my favorite chapters as well is leadership. Maybe we're going to cover that in the next video. Right now, let's check it out. Chapter 2, education, reading from The Wise Mind of His Imperial Majesty Emperor Haile Selassie first. Yeah, big up Frontline Books. Yo, go check out Frontline Books, because me think say the story's in trouble. Go and support Frontline Books, because those are the ones who publish enough of I Rastafari books and information. It's Frontline Books who make them available. And like I say, we would love to translate this book forward again into the Amharic and hand it out as a pocket book here in Ethiopia, because we know that in Ethiopia many people don't. The majority of people are disconnected with the knowledge and the teachings of His Majesty. If we're talking about this generation, if we talk about the elder generation from His Majesty's time, they know. If you ask them, they will tell you amazing and mystical and great things. But if you ask people in this generation, my generation, they're very confused when it comes to His Majesty. And we know it's because the knowledge has been purposely hidden and purposely taken away. And that is why I as Rastafari people, we are not trying to preach, we are not trying to convert, we are not trying to, make you change your ways and your life, but we are trying to promote the knowledge of His Imperial Majesty and the teachings, and promote the remembrance, because many people don't even remember His Majesty. Look on Patriots Day, they don't even mention His Majesty in the official government speech on May the 5th. These are the patriots who fought in the war for His Majesty, and the guy speaking don't even mention His Majesty. So Yes, there is a plot to keep the conquering line of the tribe of Judah out of the history books, because they know that if people know the truth of His Majesty and how great Ethiopia was in His Majesty's time, they wouldn't fall for any of the madness that is being perpetrated right now. You know what I mean? Because right now you have people arguing over this political party and that political party and this Baba and this Boo Boo. Nah, man. Because unless those people who you're arguing over can live up to the standard of His Imperial Majesty Emperor Haile Selassie I, the greatest world leader to have ever graced this realm in the modern time, in I lifetimes, then there ain't no point. Because if they're not His Majesty, if they can't live up to His Majesty, why are you going to argue over them? His Majesty is the one that already come and give us not only the questions but the answers, the solutions. And that's why I love this book, Wise Mind, because I say if all world leaders, before they were elected to be leader, had to study this book and follow. Look, it's not a complicated book, small quotes, small words, but meaningful words, sound power. Yeah? Patriots Day, Rastafari. If all world leaders had to study this book, you know what I mean? The world would be a better place. If all world leaders followed the words written in this book as an example, a structure of how to rule their country, I'm telling you, it's not my opinion, I'm telling you, well, in my opinion, I know that the world would be a better place. Yeah? Because His Majesty gives not only questions, but solutions. And this is what many of the people today lack, because they can come with ideas and different things, and we can all highlight the problem and talk about the problem, but we should be talking about the solutions. And if there's somebody who gave us the solutions, why not check what that man has to say? So family, without further ado, chapter 2, education. His Majesty says here, we are determined to be masters of our fate, owners of our wealth, and capable of removing the adjective dark from the name of our continent. Education, that of the nation and of the individual, is the bastion of this goal. Yeah? So, His Majesty talking about the importance of education, the importance of knowing oneself, and, showing to the outer world who would, we know that the outer world would like to look down upon Africa and see Africa as negative and uneducated. So we know this is not true, because we know all great civilizations, we know everything comes from Africa, and we know that it's because of the colonialization and because of the things that they did to Africa that Africa is now in the situation that it is. So His Majesty is saying, educate oneself on the true history and show them outside that they're wrong. You know what I mean? Rastafari, we're forward. Knowledge paves the way to love, and love in its turn fosters understanding and leads one along the path of great common achievements. Rastafari. Loyalty inspires understanding, and understanding cooperation. These are the clearest evidence of strength. Yeah? Loyalty, cooperation, understanding, knowledge, love. You know what I mean? These are the principles that His Imperial Majesty promotes. Rastafari. These are the ideals of His Majesty. As Akabeka, as Vaughan Benjamin would say, Rastafari, musical prophet and teacher. Yeah? These are the ideals of His Imperial Majesty Emperor Haile Selassie I. Rastafari, hear this now. The solid basis for all lies in education. It is education which allows people to live together and makes them avoid the pitfalls of immorality and induces respect for the law. Truly, the attainment of these high aims is based on education, the helping of people to live together, to avoid indulgence, immorality, and lawlessness. Yeah? Rastafari. Again, right now, check this one. An awareness of our past is essential to the establishment of our personality and our identity as Africans. So His Majesty is saying an awareness of the past, knowledge of self, knowledge of the true history of Africa, knowledge of the true history of Ethiopia, what has happened up until this point. Not the Chinese whispers that you've heard in the bush. This is not knowledge of self. This is not the true history. You need to research and find out. We all need to research and find out the history of the world, the history of humanity, and the history that they've tried to hide from because that is where the truth lies. Yeah? Otherwise, why would they hide it from the whole of humanity? Rastafari. Check this now. Give thanks, family. Big up yourselves. Locked in right now. Drop a comment, etc. Education. His Imperial Majesty says right here, education, work and diligence are the main foundation of our national existence. Yeah? And going back to that quote before going forward again, obviously we know that if we know where we're coming from, we know where we're going. Yeah? There are many people, you know, we know that Ethiopia, let's take Ethiopia for example, as we're here right now. We know that history has been hidden, that much of the history has been destroyed. In school, they don't learn about His Majesty. They learn one thing or two things, and they're negative things and propaganda. Now, if we know the history, we can actually root out these negative things and this propaganda. We can actually find the source of where it comes from. Whether it be the Italians, whether it be the Mengistu invasion, whatever it be. We can find the source of this propaganda, this information. We can deconstruct it, we can analyze it, and we can find the truth. Yeah? Or, if you want, you can just play games and listen to Chinese whispers and act like an idiot and don't know nothing and don't grow in consciousness and don't make no benefit to the next generation. Yeah. So my advice here, following in the teachings of His Majesty, is to know their history. This goes for all of humanity, because yeah, we can talk about Ethiopia, but if we look in the West, look how lost they are right now as well, family. Yeah. And most of them don't even know, say that Africa is the origin of civilization. So the whole of the world right now needs to know and find out the true history of humanity in order for healing, collective healing to take place. Yeah, reparation, all these things. You know what I mean? So yeah, we're going to cover everything in the future videos, yeah? But know thyself, knowledge of self. We have to know where we're coming from to know where we're going. We have to know the true history of the thing. We have to know why they did certain things, why they hid certain histories, because we can easily say they hid the history and some people will take it as a joke. Ah, ha, ha, ha. But no, we know the reasons why they hid the history. We know what they achieved by hiding the history. If we know the whole story, everything makes sense. So ones are advised to do your research. Rastafari. Alright, let's see. His Majesty says here, to command and to be commanded is the fruit of education, and unity and confidence is the result. I'm going to repeat that one. To command and to be commanded is the fruit of education, and unity and confidence is the result. Education of the youth is the surest guarantee for a better life. Rastafari, education of the youth is the surest guarantee for a better life. If as a youth you are educated well, if you are prepared for what the future may hold, for what life may bring at you, you know what I mean? Then you're already at an advantage to have a better life, to know how to deal with certain things that are coming. And when we talk about education, when His Majesty talks about education, as you're going to see in a minute, he is not necessarily only talking about the education that happens inside the walls of a classroom. Yeah, he's talking about the education that comes from life itself. And he has, quote, exactly saying this. All right, let's forward on. In all the countries we have visited, we have noted that education is the basis for the greatness, the power, the pride, and prosperity of a nation. Yeah? I love how in the book, whenever it says we or our, it's capitalized. Yeah? Rastafari. Alright, check this now, because this one is very important as well. And this is to do with what we've been talking about. A well-informed public opinion is essential to the growth of political and social awareness. Only he who is informed can comment intelligently on his nation's development, and only by such comment can errors be corrected and progress stimulated. Only he who is informed can comment intelligently on his nation's development, and only by such comment can errors be corrected and progress stimulated. So you hear it now? Only he who is informed can comment. So if you are not informed, if you have not done your research about the history, about the truth, about His Imperial Majesty, about whatever it is we might be talking about, if you are not informed on the topic, you cannot talk on the topic. Whereas if you're somebody who's spent many years researching, and you can bring out examples and you can bring out your evidence and this and that, you are an informed person, you are qualified to talk on the topic. But there are many people who are not informed that would love to talk, that feel they can talk, especially when it comes to His Imperial Majesty. There are so many people around the world and here in Ethiopia that are not informed, that have not done their research, that do not know the truth. about the teachings of His Majesty, the life of His Majesty, the work of His Majesty, who His Majesty is. There are so many people that are not informed, yet they feel that they can talk and fight I and I down. You see what I and I were doing? We're trying to spread the knowledge. We're trying to remind ones the conquering lion of the tribe of Judah has come in this time, and it ain't no little thing. There's a big thing to happen in this time, in this modern time right now, in this 21st century. And we know in the 21st century, with faith, courage, and a just cause, David will still beat Goliath. Rastafari. Family, let's forward on. We're reading from chapter 2, Education, the wise mind of His Imperial Majesty Emperor Haile Selassie I. Yeah? Check this now. The construction of edifices for required schools is not the real problem. The problem is to awaken the people to the need for such schools. So His Majesty is saying in that time now, you know, the resources to build the schools themselves is not the problem. It's awakening the people to the realization of the need for such schools, right? Check this one now, what I was talking about a minute ago. The possession of degrees alone does not classify anyone as fully educated. I want to repeat that for some of the university heads listening in who feel like, say, them know it all. Damien would call them educated fools. The person, sorry, that's the next one. The possession of degrees alone does not classify anyone as fully educated. See? Rastafari, we give thanks. The person who claims to know everything, as the scriptures say, is like sounding brass and tinkling cymbal. Yeah? Where's the next quote where His Majesty says, the man who says he knows too much and will learn no further is as good as knowing nothing at all. You know what I mean? So His Majesty is going deep right here on education. Right, the timer is about to run out on the video, so let me flip it and we'll continue. Jah Rastafari, part 1, education. Sila.